members, and welcome to the Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
Or I'm a Scroll. Welcome to our reaction, review, discussion of Secret Invasion. If you are new around here, we do these for Marvel and Star Wars and Doctor Who, and they are a
myriad.
It's a winding river of a conversation about what we just watched.
Okay.
There's another word in there.
Mirandering. Mirandering. No, it's not that.
It's not that.
Meandering. There we go. We got there.
Also, I don't know words. So we are reacting to what we just watched. We are not doing a watch along and then going ooh ah. If that's what you're here for, if that's what you're looking for, that's not us. We much rather speak about the themes and the conversations that are going on and what they're showing us. And that's cool. Like there is a place for both. Also, we know of the comics, but we don't know the details of the comics, and so we're coming from it from the point of view of what we know within the confines of the MCU as we sit right now.
Right.
And so we're gonna we'll reference much more of the MCU stuff than the comic stuff, but as we learn stuff about the comics as we go through this next 6 weeks, we'll interject all of that kind of stuff. With all that being said, there's some stakes to this show.
Yeah. So
spoilers. Spoilers. That's the other thing I forgot to tell. We are a spoiler conversation.
Spoilers. So, yeah. So, Colby Smulders is out.
I am both completely understanding that we needed to eliminate somebody like that in this show.
Yeah.
But I didn't want it to be Maria Hill.
Yeah.
Maria Hill is one of the few human.
She's been a thread through a lot of stuff, right?
I was going to say
Falcon and Winter Soldier and all of the
Avengers and all that.
Yeah. So she's definitely, was she in Hawkeye? Or was it just the Wakandan?
I think it was just Nico, I think was what her name was.
Yeah. But she's been in almost everything.
And I really like Colby Smulders as a person.
As an actress.
I don't know her personally or whatever, but I like her as an actor. But I also like Maria Hill because Maria Hill is specifically the Maria Hill that they took out of the Avengers, which was the one who was questioning Fury the entire way.
Right.
And Joss Whedon, I know we're not supposed to say his name 3 times in a mirror or whatever. But he took that arc out with her to make her much more likable, which I get that.
Yeah.
But having somebody of Maria Hill's level of importance in in the MCU as a essentially human, non-powered foot soldier for the greater good. She's not an Avenger, but she's part of the SHIELD group. She's part of
and Fury Wrangler.
But killing her off, and also having the conversation of Talos' wife being killed off, who Talos' wife doubled as her in No Way Home. Far From Home. It puts instant stakes to this show after what we had with why can't I think of Martin Freeman's character's name off the top of my head? Agent Ross. With the opening scene where the Skrull was impersonating Ross to get the information that the one guy would gotten.
Right. And I like how they instantly from the very first interaction, the very first scene, you're like, who's the Skrull? Right? You're already, is it Ross? Is it the other guy? I don't remember what his name was. And back at Targaryen, yeah. from you're in your head, you're
Mhm.
like you're already on edge. Which one's the scroll? You know, one of them's got to be,
Mhm.
and you go back and forth between. Oh, it's totally this guy. No, it's totally
Mhm.
Ross. It's totally So they set that up for the entire series. I mean, you're gonna be who is who isn't.
As soon as they announced this series, the question started becoming like, who has been a scroll the entire time? And so everybody's been on hashtag scroll watch, and and then the marketing, all of the posters have been Fury, Maria, Talos, everybody with either strips of their younger selves, their older selves, a scroll. Like there's been all these questions, and then like the TikTok campaign was very interesting, where they were doing videos of they could be anyone. They're out there, like kind of like just planting these seeds of questioning. So when you get to the first episode and you get to this very first scene, you're already, like you're saying, questioning everything.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and only it's only getting and going to get worse.
Yes. 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 Um. Fury has been gone. I want to talk about that. Fury's been gone since coming back from the snap, and then the blip of bringing everybody back,
Right, the unsnapping
the unsnapping,
and Tony's funeral.
and which is the only time we've really seen him since he came back.
Right.
And other than the post credit scene where he was on the scroll ship, um, but apparently the scroll ship was hanging out in outer orbit of Earth,
Right.
because he came back really quick. But he's been disconnected on Saber, um, uh, trying to find a home world for the scrolls, and and they played into that conversation quite a few times, making a point of saying you're no longer in touch, or you're two steps behind. Um, uh, Sonia Fallsworth from MI6, is being played by Olivia Colman, even said, you know, you're too old.
Yeah.
You would have caught my goons were chasing you.
Right.
And he even kind of poked at her like, I did it on purpose.
Yeah.
But
And Maria even said something
yeah,
when they were
yeah,
playing chess, that she was concerned because usually he was 2 moves ahead. So, that makes you feel, and he's like kind of gimping around, and it kind of makes you feel like maybe he's doing it on purpose. But then you think about the fact that his inability to keep up with the situation ultimately got Maria killed. So that
I,
might not
it,
have been.
I, yes, yes. I think that's going to weigh on him, because he's already still trying to deal with the being blipped. But the way that scene plays out of the bombing, um, I honestly think it's he's going to feel guilt for it, but I don't think it's necessarily his fault, because they all got separated from each other.
Right.
And
No, but if it's all an act, his slowing down and
yeah,
not able to keep up with this new bad guy, and 2 steps behind and all of that. If it's all an act, then his act ultimately cost him
cost
Maria.
cost us
So
Maria. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's
So yeah,
so I go back and forth as to whether or not it's an act,
right.
which is probably the point.
And there's a conversation to be had that he is a scroll. He is secretly a scroll that none of the other scrolls know about. And I could play with the idea of he's a super scroll. You could have that kind of conversation where he's playing this act, and it's going to come back later, because all the fight scenes didn't have him involved, at least in this episode.
Well, and when he first sees Talos and he does the
The
scroll like touching foreheads, you know,
Yeah.
and that could be a very Skrull thing to do. However, he's spent a lot of time with them, so
Yeah.
he would also understand their, you know, he's been with Talos since the early 90s,
Yeah.
so he would understand their, at least some of their customs. So it's all, I think it's all this misdirection. It's all like, is it or isn't it? Is it or isn't
and
it?
that's
Is it or isn't
there's
it?
going to be a lot of that going on in this series because I think Sonya Falsworth is a Skrull. I think she is a Skrull who is doing what Fury is doing by trying to stop this revolution that's going on.
Yeah.
But is going about it her own way to try to keep her own people safe by not allowing the humans to get involved. It's like an internal conversation that the Skrulls are all having with each other. It's very interesting. We just rewatched. We've been rewatching Doctor Who, and we just did the Zygon invasion and invasion and excursion. I can't remember what the other one is called, but that is the conversation they're having in that one. Is that a younger group of Zygons want to be open and free of who they are, like live in the open.
Yep.
And they think everyone who is a Zygon should be living in the open.
Right.
And so
except a lot of them don't want to be.
Right.
They don't want to deal with that. They'd rather just look like humans and go about their life.
Yeah. And so I think there's at least from where we're having this conversation, I think there's going to be a lot of times that we're going to kind of maybe reference that kind of conversation because that's kind of it's not the first time that's ever been done, but that is definitely one of those conversations that the younger generation thinks that the older generation has no idea what they're doing, and so to do what they think is right, they go on the violent version of themselves. The Flag Smashers kind of dealt with that, and Hawkeye.
I mean, it's very
not Hawkeye, Captain Falcon and the metal armed dude.
it's very you know, you could say the same thing about you know, black people, like especially in the 60s, like a lot of they're, you know, not exclusively, but a lot of the protests and even the more violent protests and stuff were happening with the younger generation. A lot of the older black people were just kind of like, you know, I just want to go along to get along and don't ruffle the waters, and you know, ultimately it made some progress.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, you could say that about anything, you know,
the other thing I was thinking about too is the Protestant Catholic IRA.
Yeah.
Ireland kind of same conversation was being had for a really long time.
Yeah.
It's not a unknown story or unknown thing that's happened in history. But using it in the confines of the MCU as we sit right now, and knowing that the Skrulls have been around on Earth since the 90s, if not longer, we have to like go back and re-question everything. Re-question? Yeah, that's the right word. All the way back to the beginning of the MCU with Iron Man and who was one of the fake what was Shang-Chi's father's group called?
Oh, the 10 Rings?
The 10 Rings. Was the 10 Rings using, you know, with a couple of them Skrulls to bring in an idea of collecting weapons to do, you know, like, so, I mean, it's all of that stuff is going to be a question when you go back and rewatch all this stuff.
Maybe Rhodey is a Skrull, and that's why he's like not on Fury Avenger side.
I've been on the Rhodey as a Skrull kick since they announced this series. One of the first names that came to my head is Rhodey.
Well, because the conversation he has with the president, he is very, you know, not on Fury's side,
right?
So, which is, and I even said out loud, I was like, "What are you doing, Rhodey? Like, why Rhodey's
on Rhodey's side?"
Yeah, but he didn't used to be.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe since Tony's dead, I don't know.
He did sign the Sokovia Accords, though.
Yeah, but
and
those are out the freaking window.
Well, but he did sign them, and then he committed treason against Ross and stuff like that.
Right,
So
right.
I have no idea.
Right.
Talos seems lost.
They all see, like, everybody was very sad through this whole, just down, just depressed, and I, I mean, I guess, but it was all the time, like, everybody.
Yeah,
everybody's
either on edge or very depressed.
Yeah,
and very.
This is not your shiny, happy Avengers
dark,
assemble.
Dark. Yeah. But he just, he's lost his wife and his daughter's gone to fight with the rebels, and so, and that leads to this confrontation with Gaia, with Emilia Clarke, and her finding out that her mom is dead because of what happened with this rebellion and stuff like that. But also the idea of, even though she knows, or at least learned this information, she still misled them.
Yeah, she still followed through with whatever the plan. I mean, I think that was probably the plan, or plan B.
Yeah,
if she got caught or whatever. So, she. I was hoping she'd be like, screw them over and
I think that's gonna ultimately come.
Yeah,
I think we're ultimately gonna get there.
Yeah,
but I think she is still. She's not in the questioning what Garvik. Sure.
Yeah.
Garvik. Is I don't think she's quite to the questioning him stage.
I think her mother, like, he was responsible for her mother. Like, what more do you need?
They did not show the conversation that she had with him. Like, she's only going through his right hand man. There's no direct conversation. So I think when they have that direct conversation, maybe in episode 3, that's when she's going to start, like, he's going to be like, yeah, your mom was in the way. I have a bigger purpose.
Yeah.
And that's going to kind of trigger her to kind of go through. Then she has to go back to dad and go, well, I screwed up.
Yeah, maybe she's just justifying it in her mind right now.
Yeah.
That, it was collateral damage or whatever.
Garvik, just Sherlock Holmes this thing, just 18 steps ahead of everybody else, and didn't really say a whole lot of words. And Kingsley Benadir is an awesome actor, but he's very imposing. Like, he owns every space that he's in. Even his shadow, when they were making the new Skrull Warrior, like, even his shadow was like looming over everybody. And that's typical. It's not something I thought I would see from him. He's very proper in the. Is it Bridgerton?
No. I thought it was the same guy, but it's not.
No. But he's always come across as very British proper kind of thing, whatever. And here he's very intimidating without saying anything, without being physically imposing. That you just know that he is light years ahead of everybody else. What's going on?
Pretty and steely of his resolve.
Yes, absolutely. I want to talk about using Moscow in the first episode in Russia.
Yeah,
as the backdrop.
Now, this was filmed a while ago, right? This
I think it was mid-20. No, they filmed during the pandemic. They were filming during the pandemic, and then it got pushed and stuff.
War hadn't happened.
Pre-Ukraine, yes.
Yeah, so, today it's kind of like, but then when they made it, and, maybe they learned their lesson from Falcon and Winter Soldier. I mean, I get it. I get why they changed it from this virus to, but it just messed the story up so badly that people didn't know what was going on. So they left it alone. But yeah, it's a little close to home. But then again, this is obviously a darker series.
It is a darker spy craft show.
Yeah. So if it makes you feel uncomfortable, that's okay.
That's the point. But also our avatar, our our baseline for understanding the spy world was the Cold War.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that there's not spy stuff going on now, there's spy stuff going on then.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing
It's a little different now, though. It's drones now, not individuals
but the
on the
idea
ground.
of the Cold War was it was a spy war and never actually a war.
Yeah. Yep.
And so setting this in Russia, specifically Moscow, in the depths of what is going on with Moscow and Russia and all of that with the Ukrainian war, but also you don't want to trust anybody. At least for us as Americans, it could be for something completely different for everybody outside of the United States. But for us as Americans, especially if our age demographic, we were taught that the Ruskies were evil. And so when you set this idea of what this show is going to be in an part of the world that we've always been told is evil and cannot be trusted, with the idea of we can't trust anybody that we know because they could be something else or someone else, it just adds a level that I think wasn't needed to be explained. It's not like blatantly like we put it in Russia on purpose. No, it's like it was that subtle conversation of it's going to make us feel uncomfortable because we have this history with Moscow and Russia and stuff like that. And I thought that's a really inspired choice. And then what you're saying before, staying with it.
Yeah.
Now we're not always going to be in Moscow. We've seen stuff in the trailers from London.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm assuming they're going to move around a little bit.
Yeah.
But
and then them using the making up the American militia group.
Right. Americans against Russia or something.
AAR or whatever.
AAR. Yeah.
Just kind of playing with that, and also playing with the idea of can you trust the information that you're getting from websites and stuff like playing with that idea too. So all of these levels of making you distrust what you're seeing and hearing just puts in tension. And then when you kill off two major characters, at least one major character for sure, and then one was a Skrull. Now I don't think Everett Ross is actually a Skrull. I think he was just an avatar for the purposes of this show.
Yeah.
There's too much stuff with the Thunderbolts and Val and all that stuff and whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's dead. I think the Skrull that was impersonating him is dead.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really liked what they did in this first episode, and I really like what they're going to do in this show, and I'm really excited for what they're going to do forward. I find it interesting. It's only 6 episodes and not 8. But if the story is 6 episodes and it makes most sense at 6 episodes and not packing it full of stupid stuff to make it 8, I love that.
Right. Well, and the Marvels,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, Fury's in space. We see that in the trailer, so it could very much kind of pick up where this leaves off.
Yeah.
And
they have said that this is after She-Hulk, so it's sometime in 2025
in Marvel
years. In Marvel years. So, so they're just kind of giving you an idea where that's all at. So I think we both really like this episode. I think we both really like where it's going.
Yeah.
And if you get a chance, get on TikTok and just flip through the press tour that they all did. Specifically, Ben Mendelsohn and Emilia Clarke together. They have some strange chemistry that is just awesome. Emilia tells this story about when she got hired as Daenerys for Game of Thrones. She was a scared 22-year-old, so her mother taught her to sit up straight and be rigid. And 10 years later, she still has to keep the same rigid, upright persona. So, like, decisions you make early on are going to affect you for the rest of the run of the show. And Ben starts giggling the entire time. So then she's like, when I get to Gaia, she's going to be free flowing and moving and stuff. And Ben falls out of his chair. Amazing. Go find it. It's on TikTok. So let us know what you thought of this episode, our conversation about it, and kind of our theories your theories about what you think is going to happen in this show. And who's a Skrull? Let's go. Let's start Scroll Watch. Everybody. So let us know in the comments. Please be nice. That's a requirement around here. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. Follow us on all the social media stuff, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Links in the description down below. And until next time, cult members, good afternoon, good evening, and good night now.